Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe here, Nile Scala, and I'm excited because I've got my best buddies with me tonight, Mr. Billy Tucci and Brian Blevins, the assistant to Mr. Billy Tucci.
Assistant to Mr. Tucci. I never had an assistant. I like that, Blevins. I gotta be honest with you. I'm not lying. Saying if I didn't like having an assistant,
you should see where he's sticky notes with his notes.
Yeah. Do you need a drink, Mr. Tucci? Do you need a drink?
Oh dang! Not that, man. Not that crap. No way.
When are you gonna get rid of that homeless man's urinal, dude?
Never.
We know there's no Hennessy in that thing. There's no Hennessy in that. But tonight, guys, we got an amazing show. You know, most of us out there have seen a crazy documentary in our eyes, just something that really captures who I personally consider, you know, today's Stan Lee, just someone that embodies creation, fans, you know, not caring what others say, creating a product that is just all heart and soul. And joining us tonight for our special guest is our guest host, great friend of the show, Mr. Fraga. Boom!
Good evening. Happy Monday, gentlemen. How are you?
We're doing great, bro. Thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry if there was any misconception about me saying, "Oh yeah, why don't you come on the show?" And then you were like, "Yeah, come on." And then
I saw a co-host. And was like, "What?
I'm sorry.
What did they do to me?"
Nah, it's a good idea. If I take a nap, I can hang in there. I'm, doing the old man thing.
He's like, I thought they were just being nice.
Yeah.
I was like, Dan, you want to be somebody in this industry? You better come on this freaking show.
Today.
Arm twist.
Well, plus also, this is one of our most important guests because that we've ever had because we're jazzed, because of we just love this movie and like this guy's great. Oh my God, he's so awesome. We gotta see if he'll come on the show and talk to us about
true story. I posted a thing about it. All of a sudden, I see a like from a gentleman named David Oster, and I was like, "Who's this gentleman right here? Who is this guy?" And it said the director. And I was like, "What?" Then I had to Google him. I was Googling, and I was like, "Holy smokes!" Billy, the director of the documentary, just like the tweet. It's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, this thing's great." I'm like, "Hey, see if I can get him on the show." Yeah. Shot him a quick message. "Hey, man, we'd love to have you on the show." He's like, "Great." I'm like, "Let's do this." And here we are tonight. It's happening. And without further ado, gentlemen, please, let's introduce everyone. Calm down. Everyone out there, calm down. This is huge.
Especially Lee Ditzworth.
Yes, Lee Ditzworth. And Mr. Canuck. Please welcome director David Oster.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's up, man?
Thank you. Thank God I am active on Twitter.
Yes. Yes. That
I'm
was
glad
a
we
true
made the
story,
connection.
David. That was a true story.
That is.
Well, it's a real privilege to have you on, sir.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Now left out the part that he was so happy he was crying when he called us.
Oh,
he's like, "You won't believe
that's
it."
the true story.
More like hyperventilating.
That's
it was more like hyperventilating.
The true Pop XP story.
And then Dan was like, "Bro, I know him. Chill out.
Yeah.
Chill out, bro. Don't embarrass me." No, but it's all good. I have to say, man, we'll get into the documentary much more. Todd McFarlane, like Hell I Won't, premiered was July 25th.
25th, yeah.
The 25th of July. Absolutely captured. I sent Dave an email. David, do you mind if I call you Dave or David? What would you prefer?
David's fine.
David's fine. I emailed David earlier, and I just said, man, because I had to get this off my chest. And for those of you that go to conventions and stuff, you can tell like a convention that's, maybe it's a smaller convention or even larger conventions. There's ones that are just the people that are producing these cons are just passionate about comics. They are comic book fans, and their conventions just sweat this out, and you absorb it in. And I have to say, with this documentary, I was like, this had to have been made by someone who's a fan of comics or someone who definitely appreciates the art form of comics, because it literally grabbed me. Like, there's many moments I had goosebumps, man. Just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, I feel like Todd's talking to me like one-on-one. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you did a terrific job in it. It's got so much heart, and we were talking about it after we both watched it when it premiered, and just how how inspiring it was. I don't know about you, Dan, but when he went through the whole history of Todd coming up, and then how he left Marvel for Spider-Man, and how he did. And I'm like, man, this is inspiring me, because that's what got me into comics.
Yeah.
What, got me back into comics was him, when one of my buddies showed me the Amazing Spider-Man number 300 comic in '88. Yeah. I was at art college. I was at college, and one of the kids brought it in, and I'm like, and now I love comics growing up in the '70s and in the '80s, early '80s, but then the better I got at art. I don't know if you went through this too, Dan, but the better I got at art, the more I drew away from comics, because I was looking at that Marvel style, John Buscema, looking at Joe Kubert, who I loved with Joe's own style. Dave Stevens had just came out with The Rocketeer, from all these.
Wait, what are you saying? Are you saying the better you got, the more you were getting into comics?
Getting away from it, because I'm like, I could never do this. I'm like, I can't draw. I can't do this. John Byrne, George Perez. I'm like,
but you're getting better, but you're looking at comics thinking that you can't do it.
Right. So then, oh my God, no, it's totally.
I don't understand that concept. That did not happen.
I was intimidated. I didn't think I could ever be good enough, or my own personal style wasn't that.
See, the better I got, the more I thought I can get this good. I know if I keep going, I can do this.
I didn't until I felt there's no way I can do this. I really felt that. And then I remember talking to my mentor, whose name's John Tartaglione, who's a longtime Marvel art director, inker, artist. He worked in Marvel for 40 years or so. Bullpen, he ran the Bullpen. He did the Pope comic, the Mother Teresa comic, like some of them on his own. But I remember he's like, Bill, you should get into comics. You should draw comics. And I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's no way. And he goes, yeah, but you should try it. Styles are changing and all. And then I said, well, how much did I get paid? And he goes, oh, they'll probably start you off at $25 a page to pencil. And I'm like, oh, it'll take me a week to draw a page like this. So I guess because I started to develop my own sort of style, I felt I could never be like those giants. And then this kid brought in the Amazing Spider-Man number 300, and I saw Todd's style was unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
It was unconventional, and you covered that, David, with the questions, with the interviews of how Todd was saying, oh, maybe the anatomy doesn't have to be perfect. I wanted him more the spider than the man, because he was always Spider-Man. And the way Todd did it, as you described in your movie, is that it was Spider-Man. Yeah. And I loved how fearless his art was. That's how it struck me. And I'm like, wow, I mean, this guy's completely on his own. He's not like anyone else's artwork. And he's doing Spider-Man. And then that's what got me in. Then I went to the store to go buy it. And it was $10 already, the book. I didn't have $10. But Spider-Man number 301 was there. And I bought that. And that's what got me back into comics again. Because I'm like, I can do this too. Because it was so original in style. So.
And then you guys blew up, man.
Yeah. The thing I appreciate the most about the movie, David, is we talked about this a little bit before the show, but I've always found that Todd has been an energizing force in my career. I had the same sort of experience the first time I saw his work as Billy. Not the same road that got me there, but it was just between Frank Miller's Dark Knight and Todd's Hulk. I was like, you don't have to draw. I call it pajama. You don't have to draw a pajama Spider-Man. You don't have to draw a pajama Batman. It doesn't have to look like that style guide. You can do whatever you want. Holy crap. And it blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
But the way I get my, let's call that a fix. I remember as a kid, the feeling I got from seeing that stuff and kind of like that emotional, it evoked this sort of spirit. I don't know how to explain it other than I had never felt that way before. I go to my spinner rack. That's one of the ways I try to kind of live that, or, put those batteries back in.
Yeah.
I go to Stan Lee's comic book greats that he had done with Todd, and he also did one with Todd and Rob. I go to the Devil You Know documentary, this one here. I go to the art of Todd McFarlane, Devil's in the Details. and you have added to the canon. That was my long way of getting there. But your doc, I had the very fortunate happenstance of being able to see it a few months ago in its rawest form, and I got the goosebumps, and I got that the Todd fix. So thank you for that. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty fucking awesome,
dude. It was.
Go ahead.
Oh well, I was just gonna say, like, I enjoyed it immensely as well, and I think the biggest thing that I took away from it that I captured is you did definitely capture Todd's like unapologetic, drive to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. And with, with all the trials and tribulations, he's like, look, I'm not gonna fall back on anybody else. And he almost like Jerry Seinfeld it. He left like one of the biggest books, at the biggest time to go do what he wanted to do. Like it wasn't like he was failing and then left to go do something else. I mean, like he left as part of a ragtag team to go through and create the biggest thing that changed everything. I mean, like his toys changed toys forever. His comics changed forever. And I mean, like, again, it's so crazy. And what a great time for it. I mean, you had at the start of the year, you had the Jungle King, the Tiger King story.
Yeah.
Then you had like the Bulls and the Last Dance. And now you have this Todd McFarlane documentary, which, from any kind of fanboy, I mean, it's just right up there. I mean, it's just as good as all the other ones.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah,
it was just a great opportunity for us to have it come out during the time of Virtual Comic-Con. And like you said, having it come out during, like, following up to those, I couldn't have been happier with that. And I'm so happy to hear that you guys like the film. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, when Todd said break the rules and make it look cool, that was sort of like that sentence just like really stayed with me the whole time. And that just embodied him. He was just like, I'm going to do it my way, no matter what. And like you said, he was at the top of the game as Spider-Man, but that just wasn't good enough. Like, he still had more to do and didn't want to be limited by anybody else other than his own creation.
Yeah, Todd's. There's an analogy a friend of mine told me about as far as creativity and boldness. He said, in the river of whatever it is that you do, you can be a pebble or you can be a boulder. And the boulder actually changes the flow, right? A pebble exists and it enjoys the same current, but that boulder actually changes the flow. And you get once every now and then Todd McFarlane that comes in and just kind of does exactly that, changes the course of the river.
The wise rabbit.
That's a great analogy.
Hey, David, before we get into how this came to be and all, was the film planned to maybe debut at Comic-Con this year? Did you guys, before all the COVID thing, or was it always going to like be on the network during the show?
Actually, no. Originally, it was planned to air like in December of last year.
Oh, wow.
And it just became like pretty evident that wasn't going to be possible. So just because of like we had to license a lot of the footage from the movies and stuff like that. And that process was already taking a long time. And then when COVID happened, it took even longer. So it ended up, but like I said earlier before the show started, that allowed us to get the composer to do more music and kind of rework some of the graphics and do these things that kind of, I think, added to the final product, made it a little bit more polished. And I think overall that ended up being like a silver lining, like you said, Dan. So I didn't even know that the plan was for it to come out during the Virtual Comic-Con until not too long before that. So I was super stoked when that happened. And I was just like, okay, great. It's going to come out and be part of this thing. And because we just didn't know what the plan for SYFY had in terms of when to come out. And I think that just kind of came together as a natural fit for it.
Was it your pitch?
To do the film?
Yeah.
So SYFY There's a guy named Michael Avila who works with SYFY Wire.
Right.
He had done
He's in the documentary, isn't he?
he did a documentary with Sci-Fi Wire about Image Comics.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that was pretty successful for the YouTube channel and so forth. And so he pitched to Todd to do it, and I don't know what the circumstances were in terms of how that deal got done or agreed upon, but that was what made the project start. And then they went to a company called Tongle, who they had done different projects with Sci-Fi Wire and them. I had done projects with Tongle, and they were looking for a filmmaker to do this project, and it was pitched through Tongle. So I pitched through Tongle, and at the time I didn't even know who the film would be about. They didn't say it was about Todd McFarlane until I had gotten to the next phase.
Score.
So I basically pitched, basically just on my own qualification as a filmmaker. And then when I got whittled down, then they said, it's about Todd McFarlane. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I got the opportunity to put together a more like detailed pitch, like a treatment and storyboard stuff and images. And we made a video. And then based on that, they really liked that pitch. And that's how I got the job. That being said, like that was about April of 2019. I remember so clearly because Avengers Endgame had just come out. And then it wasn't until right before Comic-Con that they officially like greenlit the project. So we basically had a week to just hit the ground running and get out to Comic-Con and start filming. So nice. It was a crazy ride, but it was we were super excited.
You know what's crazy, man, is I had first heard about your project because I was shooting something for my comic, The Grave. I had done a favor for a friend of mine who's a producer who happened to be this partner in this company called Donatello Arm that does all this beautiful. You know the Donatello Arm because you used it in the series. All those really sweet action figure shots that are just gorgeous and slow moving and well lit. That comes from this company that does Donatello Arm. Well, I had done a favor for one of the partners of that, and that he said, you can use my Donatello Arm to do whatever. So I said, hey, I got this comic called The Grave. I'd like to shoot some beauty shots of my comic, and whatever. And one of the guys there, it was Adam. Adam was talking to me, and maybe it was Rio too. They were talking to me about you and how you were in the running, and that they were going to shoot some stuff for you because they wanted you to get this gig. And I remember Chenzi kind of telling me the same story, and I just remember what's happening, what's going on, is it going to happen? Yeah. And then when they're doing it, and next thing I know, like Chenzi's like, I gotta go to San Diego. I've never been, just like this kind of crazy thing. So I got to
0 to 100 so fast.
Yeah, I got to watch your journey, but like not even a fly on the wall. I was like a fly, like up in a tree outside of the house. Like I could see it, but it's so cool to hear like your version of it after experiencing it as somebody from the outside, excited about it for you.
Yeah, well, it is really interesting that you were always kind of there while this was happening.
Yeah, and
like kind of a small world too. But it's just funny because I never wanted to get my hopes up too big. So but honestly, it might be fate. I don't know what it is, but if the job had started like in May when it was supposed to, I wouldn't have been able to work with Chenzi, who was your friend of mine and a producer on the film.
Yeah.
And I think it just worked out for the best that happened because I don't think we could have done it nearly as we did without Chenzi.
A lot of battles.
Oh yeah, I mean
that's what producers do. Yeah. Is they fight the battle. So
putting out fires, solving the problems every day. I mean, when we can get more into this like as we go, but when we did go to Arizona to film with Todd, it was obviously like amazing to be there we were there for like 10 days. Wow. And it was great to be there and just be filming with Todd every day. But the reason why we were there at that time, it was like the beginning of August, was because they were just finishing up Spawn 300. So that being a part of the film, we had to capture that and sort of the drama of them like coming up to the deadline. they were coming up to the deadline. So we also had to schedule all the interviews we did with Todd and with his people. It was just sort of, and when we went up to the mountaintop and things like that, all of that was during that time that he was also trying to finish the historical book of his career. And it was just like crazy. And so without Chinzy there, I don't know how we could have done it, because
you got to step into the hurricane.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
kind of have to, handle business in the hurricane. That's incredible.
And I mean, like even when we did the interview with Todd in his home, we had done like sort of off the cuff interviews like in the office while he was inking and drawing and stuff. And then I was like, Todd, we really need to do like a sit down interview at your house, 2 or 3 hours or so. And he was like, I'm behind on inking. And I was like, well, we got to do it. So why don't you ink while we do it? And he was like, okay. So if he's inking during that, and that's why, because he was actually working while we were doing the interview, which I'm sure like people that know Todd know he always talks while he's inking. So it wasn't too big of a stretch for him to do that, but that's what it was like. And even when we went up to the mountain, he brought his pad with him and was inking while we were in between.
No time wasted. No time wasted.
He couldn't. He had a deadline. And so it was just, and that's inspiring too, just to be like, it could have been easy for him to just be like, I'm not going to do it. But just constantly a worker, that guy. So it was great.
Incredible.
It was great.
So
how long was the filming process? How long were you guys filming for?
Well, the main filming was from Comic-Con until like the end of August.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we did the majority of the filming. We filmed the Comic-Con. We filmed that 10 days with Todd, and then we filmed a week in LA. We did interviews with like Mark Bernardin, Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, and then the Donatello stuff we also did in August and the beginning of September. And so the majority, and there was also some stuff that SYFY had already filmed that we were able to use. So that was nice and helpful to have that extra footage and stuff like that. Although sometimes it's like that there's an interview with Robert Kirkman that we used, and it looks like he's in like a alleyway with purple bricks or something. I would have loved to shoot that interview somewhere else, but you can't get it. Was a good interview. And then we did have like a couple of additional interviews that we picked up, like I want to say end of September, but the majority of filming was in August.
And how long was post-production on that?
Post was like for me, we got to the cut that I think Dan saw right before Christmas.
Yep, exactly.
And at that point, that was sort of my director's cut. And then we gave that to SYFY and Tongle as well. And then at that point, there was some, they were still doing licensing and stuff. So there was a few things that needed to be like replaced that they couldn't use or shortened. There's little like legal issues like that. And then they, like I said before, they had a composer that we had hired to do the title sequence, and they had him do some more music, and it was really great. So that ultimately ended up being like better overall. So it was cool.
That's crazy. Now, let me ask you, I know we started to get into this, but I actually want to pause for a second and talk a little bit about like your origin story. Because, how did you get into film? Were you growing up, were you into comics? Was this a new world for you doing the documentary, or was this something you were familiar with?
That's a good question. Like I said to you before when we were emailing, I was always like a filmmaker first, comic book fan second, but it wasn't like a situation where I had never read a comic book before. I didn't know who any of these people were or never been to Comic-Con before. I had. So I remember very vividly, like in high school, I had to read Watchmen as like required reading for this class. I had a cool teacher.
That is awesome.
Teacher, man.
I love that. Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, that was like a required reading. And like, for me, it didn't seem weird at the time, but I tell people that all the time and they're like, are you kidding me? But that blew my mind. And I just, that was like, just like the possibilities of comic books was just like, wow. So I was aware of, and I remember the Walking Dead films in Atlanta, so I'd read some of the Walking Dead. Like, I knew about some of the great, like Stan Lee, of course, and Ditko and Kirby, and you know, the list goes on. But, and as we said before, I've worked on some Marvel movies here in Atlanta, and so I've been to Comic-Con before. Back in 2010, I got to go. So I've been around it, and I've been like immersed in the greater spectrum of the comic book world. But in terms of like the artistry and the production of comic books and all those types of things, I had very little knowledge of that or appreciation, really. And that was a cool thing for me to make this film, because I got to learn that too, and I got to see that too. I got to be the audience while in real life, and I was like, I need to share this with people because this is amazing, especially the type of art that Todd's doing, like in drawing on the paper and on the screen that he has. Yeah, just like the artists that he was able to bring on to 300 and the different styles that they had. You know, from Jason Sean Alexander to J. Scott Campbell, like so different. Yeah. But it was just like, wow, you know, this is like, I think cooler than I thought.
Maybe a portion of the success of the documentary is that you're coming from an unbiased perspective, you know, like if I had to do a Todd documentary, it would fully be like almost like a hero worship sort of movie, you know?
Yeah, me too.
So no, but I find that like you said, you're the audience, and you're coming from a completely unbiased place. You're trying to get to the point and the root, which is pretty awesome. What a great opportunity, not only for SYFY, for getting you and but for Tongle as well. I worked with Tongle. They did a bunch of work for Mattel when we were there. A lot of the stop motion-y stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that Tongle has done. And this is not a knock on them in any way, but a lot of the stuff they has done has been more like commercial work or stuff like that, and the stuff that I had done with them anyway. Yeah. But like, this was definitely a cool opportunity for them and for me to be able to tell a story, and especially, I mean, of course, about someone like Todd McFarlane, like a legend of the comic book world, was awesome. But like you said, like just coming a little bit objectively into the story, I always wanted to just tell a good story and just tell Todd's story in like the best way that I could. That I was hopeful that I could make something that would resonate with people who didn't know who he was, like me, or didn't know as much, or wasn't a big fan or something, you know, but also could be something that appealed to fans and to people who didn't know who Spawn was or didn't know. Right. So that was, to me, like my goal from the beginning was to always just tell the story in the best way and make it be about him. There was definitely some conversations along the way about putting more Spawn or more Spider-Man or more of the movie or something, different things into it. But I always just wanted to keep the core part of the story about Todd's personal journey.
It's about the man.
And that's why, like, I think when you hear him talking about his wife, Wanda, and you know, the balance she brings to his life, that moment when we were in the interview and he starts tearing up, spoiler, we were all tearing up in the room.
No, that is some tasty documentary stuff, dude. It was
and we were like, you know, we have to like do this moment justice in the film, you know. And so hopefully we did. You did. But I appreciate it.
I have a question for you. It's maybe it's a Zenny question.
Okay.
But do you feel that you like? It's a weird question. How did doing this documentary change you?
I've thought about this myself. It's not too Zenny of a question, but I think what I really appreciated from being around Todd was the fact that since he is doing his own thing, it's like as an artist or a creative person, it's just like such a dream to be able to do what you want to do the way you want to do it without being told by other people, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. And I mean, that just like to be around someone who actually is getting to do that
Yes.
It was super inspiring. And also like Bo said on the this is a little bit more like personal, but like Bo said it on the last show, Todd's a great family man still. Like a lot of people get super successful and you hear about them like neglecting their personal life or other people. It wasn't like that. Even when we were doing 300, I remember there was a time or when we were there and he was working on 300, he's behind, we're behind. It's kind of chaotic. I think Wanda called and she had like a flat tire or something and he was going to go help her. He didn't try to put that off on someone else because he was too busy, So that was inspiring me too as a person to be like, it's possible to be successful at what you want to do, but also not have that like be impossible to have.
No balance.
Yeah.
He seems to have balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did SYFY, did they hook you up with a bunch of research, like comic books and stuff like that? Or did Todd and them give you any reference guides or anything like that when you met him? And did you get an autograph?
Great question. SYFY did provide us with some stuff.
Sorry, Dan.
And Mike was our sort of comic book, he does behind the panel, so he knows all these people. So he was always a reference to us. But I did do a lot of research on my own. I did buy Todd's book. I did see those documentaries. I soaked up as much as I possibly could about Todd, about comics. There was definitely early cuts where there was a lot more sort of history of comic books in the 80s and stuff that I wanted to try to put in there, but just didn't quite make their way into the final cut, And that's the thing where I've seen people say that it was too short. And I'm like, you're telling me, like, I always knew I had 45 minutes to tell.
Dude, I could have taken 2 hours of that easily.
I think you did. You definitely did quality though. I mean, it wasn't quantity; it was quality.
What's good about the timing is like, it launched like with San Diego Comic-Con at home, right? Yeah. So it was almost the way I saw it was like I'm going into a panel right now, and they're usually only about an hour. Getting that experience. That's what I took it as. So that's kind of the mental thought I had with it. So the time frame, I thought for what was edited and put together, I captured a boatload. But yeah, like Dan said, I could freaking probably sit through 2-3 hours of that.
Definitely.
There was definitely a lot of stuff that I wanted to include, like Venom and the stuff about baseball. He famously had bought all those baseballs, and he had a really special relationship with Stan Lee that was part of the conversation we had when I interviewed him at his house. And I don't know if you guys know, but he had met Stan when he was younger at a baseball camp, and then just to be able to be working with him and doing Spider-Man and have like the relationship and the friendship that they had before he passed was such a cool thing to me, but just couldn't fit it in the film. But back to your question, of course I got some autographs. And there's a part, at the end where we have like a nice like close up of him signing a book, and I had him probably sign like 10 things, and it was all to get the final shot. But I knew that I was going to give those to people. And then I have a friend who's a huge Trekkie, and McFarlane Toys had done Captain Kirk and Patrick Stewart figures, and they just gave me. I said, "Those are awesome. My friend would love those," and they were like, "Oh, you want them?" And then I got Todd to sign one for my friend, and that was cool. So really appreciated that. But yeah, of course. And Todd was, super cool about all that.
I always wondered how taboo that is, because I have no shame.
Yeah.
I feel like, hey, look, man, like I'm never gonna get this opportunity again.
Yeah.
Can a brother?
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. A no leaves me where I was before I asked.
Yeah, you shoot for no.
True.
You shoot for no, and you get pleasantly surprised when you get the yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's definitely an etiquette to it, Yeah. Like there's a right time and a wrong time to ask for pictures and autographs and things. Exactly. But I guess that's I've sort of picked up on that along the way in my own experiences, like working with other actors and stuff. because I've definitely been in the situations where it was not the right time. And like, you kind of know, like, no, you know, especially when you're out at a restaurant or something like that, those are the times that are like, come on.
Yeah.
But most of the time, people are more than happy to do it. Just depends on the situation.
Yeah, timing's crazy, man. Like,
I think we need to push this here. This hashtag needs to be pushed.
When
Yes, I love that. Release that.
I didn't do any of
tomorrow.
I didn't do any of the kind of work you did on the Marvel films, but one of my buddies was, I still think he is. He's a pop star, right? He's in the group NSYNC.
Okay.
And we used to hang out. Like, he'd come out to Orange County and we'd hang out. And whenever we'd go to, like, and this is like early 2000s, we'd go out. Eventually, there'd be like just craziness, you know, and you know, you're like, you end up becoming sort of this like social manager of, like, you know, let them walk and like,
yeah,
you know,
you're like,
sort of thing.
You get kind of thrust into that position, like whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
I think it's weird too, because when you're with someone like that, when you're with them, it's like you and I are just hanging out.
Right.
And then it only gets weird when other people recognize that person, and then there starts to be some kind of like pylon of people being like, oh my gosh, and then you have to get out of there before.
It's got to be weird. Like, if you thought of it like a video game, like recently I've been getting into VR.
Yeah.
And VR is such a crazy world, you know? And I imagine like getting into a situation that seems fine, but then these weird sort of things come in and intrude the energy, you know, but it's real life.
Yeah.
You know, so crazy.
It's definitely not something people that can really be prepared for, I don't think.
No.
Now, you've been, you know, assistant to, you know, like Cumberbatch, Rockwell. I mean, how was that? Did you build friendships with them, or was it all business?
Yeah, I mean, they don't speak to me. They hate me.
One of them pops right behind him, like,
no, of course we, you know, became friendly while working together. Thankfully, I mean, I've worked for several different actors, and I've had the fortune of working with mostly good people. You could look at my resume and see the ones that weren't.
None of those swimming with sharks.
Really?
You ever see Swimming with Sharks?
I actually haven't, but yeah.
Okay, well, it's based on two assistants that used to be Joel Silver's assistants, and one of them was a friend of mine, and I was just like, how true is this movie? And he's like, it's 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure it's absolutely accurate. But I feel like I've been fortunate because Benedict was great, Sam Rockwell was great, and like. You know, working on Avengers was great with Benedict, and like,
was Anthony Mackie any cool? Was he cool?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's always saying cut the check. He's always
he's about the money for sure.
He's always having a cigar whenever he gets a chance. We did this movie called The Banker, and that movie was on Apple, I think, Apple Plus. But that was I didn't work the whole thing. A friend of mine had to leave early, and so I filled in. But it was a tough shoot. We were doing like 18-hour days.
Ooh.
So it was just kind of brutal. So I think we earned a couple of cigars every now and then. But working on Avengers was great. And like just getting to be a part of that at all, but also just around all those people. I mean, it was just great. All those people were great. And it was kind of interesting because those shoots, they shot kind of back to back. And it was this whole long thing, but I only worked when Benedict was working. Mm-hmm. So it would be like sort of short spurts at a time. And then I would be doing something else, my own project or working on another show or something. And then, but by the fourth time we worked together, we were pretty cool by that point. So we went to a Falcons game. Like like Atlanta, he'd never been to an NFL game. So he was like, I've never been to an NFL game. And I was like, let me see if I can get us into the Falcons game. My friend had his parents had a suite, so they just got us in. I looked like
hanging out with David.
I looked like so cool to Benedict by scoring that for free. So because they were like,
did he let you hold the eye of
Agamotto?
Did
Agamotto?
you get to?
I did hold it. Yes.
Did you get to put the cape on?
No, they wouldn't let me do
Nice.
that. They wouldn't let. We call it a cloak, by the way.
Oh, cloak.
I can't tell you how many times wardrobe corrects people over that. It's a cloak.
You can't say cape.
It's a cloak. It's
that's very.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen like behind the scenes, but it is a process to get that on. Like,
and imagine
that's the last thing to go. Like when
joke.
We would put the costume on, you know, at the trailer or base camp, they call it, and then we'd go to set, and then right before we were ready to shoot, there's like a tent with the cloaks and stuff in it, and the cloak has to be drilled on. So you can't just take it off. So we're like always, it's the last thing that needs to be done because you can't take it off. And so that was, but that was fun though.
You know who you can thank for that? There are 3 individuals, and Billy can probably fill me in even more, but you take Michael Golden, Marshall Rogers, and Todd McFarlane, and you look at their cloak work. I'm going to throw it in there.
Oh, yeah.
You look at their cloak work, the way he draws Batman's cloak, the way Michael Golden drew Doctor Strange's cloak.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, cloaks are always drawn sort of
flat,
flattened with gravity and all of, like the design. Whenever I draw, I have characters that have them. Whenever I draw them, it's very specific. It's designed, and anybody that's got to direct that in a cinematic way, I could imagine that it's not just a piece of cloth that they drape over somebody.
And there's definitely a lot of CG that goes into the Doctor Strange cloak after the fact, but that's always a thought on set when we're doing those movements of how's it gonna play when he's flying and doing things. I mean, I remember seeing Todd's Batman that there's actually like a figure of, and it's just like the cape is like all over the place. It's amazing. Not realistic at all. Doesn't matter. It looks cool, which is the point. But yeah.
Man,
David, how did you get started? You know, like you said, you were a film kid, like, you know, more so than comics. Were you into film as a kid? Did you want to always direct? Did you want to act? Like, how did you come to this point to get actually into it? Did you go to school for it? You know?
Yeah. I was one of those kids that was making little films with my friends. Like, once I got a little camera when I was a kid, you know, it's kind of cliche, but that was me. But then I went to school at University of Georgia, kind of did their version of their film program. It was a film studies minor. I got an internship on the show Community while I was there. And that was sort of my first like foray into the business. I also was like an extra on The Blind Side.
I saw that. That's like my wife's favorite movie.
Yeah.
I never seen it. No.
I had a lot of fun on that movie. I was on the football team. But that, you know, I just got,
David, the director, was an extra in The Blind Side.
On the football team, Billy.
Well, I just got that bug, you know, and I just was like, I want to do this. And then from that point on, I worked my way up as like a production assistant and assistant to different actors and people. But every time, the benefit of working in film is the job ends at some point. You work on a movie, it ends. You work on a TV show, it ends. And when it ends, you can keep working on another show or try to find another job, or you can do your own thing. So I was always making my own films or doing like commercial work in between that. And that's how I got to work with Tongle. So over the past probably 8 years or so, I've made a lot of different commercial projects, little short doc style things, sort of honing my craft. And that eventually led to where we were now, where I was able to kind of get a shot at doing a bigger, longer narrative thing. And that the stars aligned for this project. And I definitely think my relationship that I had built with Tongle was helpful for that, for sure. Like the portfolio that I had with them, even though the project I had with them some of them were documentary style, but some of them were completely not. But they just knew that if I was given a budget and given a project, I could execute. And that was huge for that. And so, of course, all the while I'm working with some of the top filmmakers in the world, and I'm learning and like soaking up all of that as I'm going. So it's just good to be able to get a chance to really apply that to my own film. So I was literally on the movie Richard Jewell with Clint Eastwood in July. I was working with Sam Rockwell, and I had to leave that to start working on this documentary. And Sam was super supportive of that. He was like, "Go do it, man." But that was where I was at. So it's one of those stories where you're like, okay, I got to quit my job now. But it was cool. It was cool.
Now, did this like give you like the are you like itching though for more now? Like after, you know, getting you've got the documentary of Todd out. I mean, it's doing very well, especially in like the comic community and everything. I mean, are you looking to do more?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely would like to. And we are having conversations about that. I know SYFY is very happy with the documentary, I've heard, and I've heard that it's done pretty well. And, you know, we'll have more conversations about if that can lead to more stuff with SYFY. But I'm having conversations with other people, other filmmakers I know. And so I'm definitely trying to, you know, continue doing more, because of course this is what I want to do. So
I'd like to ask a question about something that made me ridiculously sad, and that was the cancellation of Whiskey Cavalier, because I thought that show was incredible. Like, I mean, look at the team that was on it. I mean, you had Scott Foley, you had Lauren Cohen, and then you had Tyler Williams from Everybody Hates Chris. I mean, like it was set up to be such a good show, and I didn't see any problem with it at all, and it didn't even make it through one season. And I mean, like, that show was incredible. Scott Foley, by the way, used to be married to Jennifer Gardner before, you know.
I didn't even know that.
Before Ben.
Oh yeah. They got divorced for
Felicity.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. That's where I knew him from first, Felicity, and then he did a bunch of other stuff, and then he was in The Unit, which I think gave him that that military persona, which made him a no-brainer for the Whiskey Cavalier show.
Yeah, I mean, the cast was great. You had Lauren from Walking Dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, I worked on that show. That's why you bring that up. And I had a blast working on the show. We were in Prague. Chinzi's assistant, the guy he works with from Donatello and from the show Doom Patrol, actually got me onto that show. And the show was a lot of fun. I had such a blast working on it. And the people were great. Peter Atencio was our directing producer.
The writing was great.
Peter Atencio had done all of Key and Peele, which I'm a huge fan of. And like, so it was funny. It was like fun. I just think the show like must have just not gotten the ratings they were hoping for. It was expensive to make. I know that. So I feel like maybe at the end of the day that was just like the end just didn't
like a numbers game.
Yeah. Like they're just, because I liked the show and I thought that it definitely had a lot of potential to get better over time if it was given, you know how shows like they just don't get the chance to become like
think about that. Yeah, some of the greatest stuff, like I'm a Star Trek Next Gen fan, but it wasn't until the end of season 2 that I was all in.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like and from what, like, I haven't watched The Wire yet, but everybody that tells me about The Wire says, okay, like season 1's tough to get through, but once you get through, you know, you like every one of those that are these epic shows are always this sort of like, you know,
they kind of find themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
it took me like season 3 for Gilmore Girls, and I was like, what?
Yeah. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you had to get past like episode 12 before it started getting good for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean,
okay,
like in season 1, episode 12 is kind of like where they kind of jumped a lot of sharks during that time. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Speaking of Marvel, though, Agent Carter, I liked that show.
Yeah,
I like that show too.
I liked Agent Carter.
She was very attractive.
Yes, she was.
Well, that's where they're
She has
going
a huge
this season.
career. Both of them.
Like they brought her back for this season, for the final season of.
She was great.
Yeah,
perfectly cast for that role.
Yeah.
I would like to see Sam Rockwell come back as Hammer in something.
Yes.
Not dead.
You can't kill Justin Hammer. No way.
he's just got locked away. Like, he could come back. I'd like to see that guy come back.
They need if you want to tie him in with the Todd McFarlane, he did that issue where Hammer was in it, and he had this like purple quilted smoking jacket.
Really?
If they could tie that in, you know, it would just be the sweet Easter egg, you know.
That would be such a Marvel thing. That would be such a Marvel. I don't want to say marvelous thing, but that would be a very Marvel thing to do.
Like just throw it in there.
I was working on the show Loki for Disney Plus before we got into the quarantine lockdown stuff.
Yeah.
And that show is going to be cool, man. That's a whole different vibe than a lot of the other Marvel stuff. So I think people are going to really dig that.
Nice.
Now, would you be going back on that when things kick off, or
it depends on how things go. You know, I'm having conversations with other things that I would love to do, but it's kind of hard now because of COVID. It's just sort of hard especially documentaries are hard to do now too, because you have to get the people that you want to interview. It's got to be safe to do that, and like we're not quite sure yet what that looks like. Ideally, like something like that could be possible if you could do smaller crews, which is good. But there's also the obviously concern of like you don't want to go interview like Mark Silvestri and he gets sick. That's like that's not good. So just figuring out what that looks like. But there are things that can be done prep wise and shooting in studio stuff and all that kind of stuff, and compiling footage, historical footage and stuff like that. So there's stuff you can do even if you can't do an interview yet, or go to, obviously, like, a big part of the documentary with Todd was the fact that we were able to go to Comic-Con and be there. And so I would love to be able to do that again if we were going to do that again with someone else, to be at a convention, to be around fans and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we can get back to that soon.
Have you watched any of the new documentaries that are out like right now? I caught two recently. I caught Go-Go's, and then I caught Amy, which is the one about Amy Winehouse. And the thing that I found interesting about the Go-Go's one is it was sort of traditional with your not found footage, but archival, stuff like that, plus current interviews, plus B-roll, plus culture at the time, these sort of mixes of things. But what was very interesting about the Amy one, format wise, and this is maybe where I get a little I don't know if it's a director mind or if it's just a person that's got isms, but like when I watch stuff, I always end up like kind of like breaking format down. This one literally had no on camera. It was either the audio was from the archival footage, or it was interview, but interview was always voiceover, and they never cut away to that person in a studio. Yeah, it was always a voiceover over archival footage, or that they would have archival footage of that person, and then they'd have the person now with their interview footage going over it. But they never cut away. Like, I'm like, did they just do this with a sound? Did they do it in a studio?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a trip. It was such a trip because format wise, it really, like, I was like, they're never cutting away to that interview, are they? Nope. They still haven't broken format. And I realized, that's just what they're doing. They're just showing that. So it's kind of interesting.
It's really unique.
Yeah. The one from like 7 years ago?
Which one?
The Amy documentary from like 7 years ago? Is
it from 7 years ago?
There was one from
like 7 years ago. If it is from 7 years ago, I just caught it now because it was on and I hit record. I got to look it up. Maybe it's from their logo looks like cinema.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was a new one because I didn't.
Perhaps maybe it is from 7 years ago because I mean she passed away a long time ago. But maybe I caught them both at the same time. But the fact still remains, the format was really weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it didn't bother me. It was just noticeable. And what you were talking about as far as like getting all those elements and like shooting somebody in a controlled studio.
Yeah, that's interesting. That seems more possible, maybe different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it already exists and it's something that's out there, you can still get by doing that in these days and times. But hopefully these days
it's all
and times
be through Zoom. That's all. You know, it's going to be a Zoom window, and then
that's what we want.
Everything's going to be Zoom.
It's already part of the vernacular.
Zoom is making out great right now.
It's already part of the vernacular. But I'll tell you, man, like I brought this up. This is the third time I'll bring it up. But VR, what was really incredible to me in VR is like what we're doing right now. Imagine that, like, because the headset goes away. That's the weird thing about VR. I got the Oculus Quest.
Oh, cool.
I went to this place and I'm like exploring. There's this place called an app called Alt Space VR. There's another one that's sort of aged down called Rec Room. There's another one called VR Chat. But I went to this place because I saw the screen for it. It looked like a really kind of cool outer space nightclub, and it was completely empty. And I go there. And I'm like walking around, looking around. I'm like, this place is a trip. Oh, there's some glow sticks. And I turn and there's a dude there. He's like, hey, man, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, hey. And it was another person, but it was like this person showed up in this place, right? Like I was already so immersed that there's this person. He's like, have you used your pen yet? I'm like, what are you talking about, my pen? He's like, oh, you don't know about the pen. So he gives me this pen, which allows you to fly, right? So here I am sort of, you just point it and you pull and you're like able to sort of fly through this environment. And I'm like, yo, this is the coolest shit I've ever, like, it feels very real. You're teleported. It doesn't feel like a game. You just literally feel like you're in another place, sort of Ready Player One-ish, but not quite.
Let's say Ready Player.
But very close, very close. Like you have the roller coaster game where you're tilting and whirling and stuff. But I was like, dude, how does somebody make a world like this? He goes, oh, my friend Kaz built this place. And then that guy happened to show up, which was really cool, right? Like the guy who built this place. And I found out that you can build these virtual spaces in Unity. You can get them lit and skinned out, run them through a process and upload them to these places. So if I wanted to create, say, an Incredible Comics place that has art on the walls, and you walk up to this other thing, you see a video. But when we walk up to each other, we're literally looking at each other, talking. The VR sees your hands, so you see like my hand language and all this sort of thing. It's a space, and it doesn't exist anywhere, but it's a space that you go to. This guy was in California. This guy was in Boston, but we're in the same place, feeling as if we're in the same room together.
But now, do you like see their faces? Like, are they looking at you and like it's mapping out the mask?
You're an avatar.
You're just an avatar.
You're an avatar, and that's the other thing. Is like depending on the app you're in. Like I know VR Chat, you can build your own, so you can make like a Super Nile, you can make a John Malin, you can even put eyebrows on him. But you know that you have an avatar, and you know you can go through, but. What's crazy is like a buddy of mine, he was an animator that worked with me on Gervais. He found me in another app called Rec Room, right? Which, like I said, is kind of aged down, it's cool though, because you can like go play paintball, go play laser tag, go on like vision quests, and it feels very real. But he's like, hey man, you want to check out they call them dorm rooms, right? I'm like, yeah, let's check it out. He's like, you got to see this thing I made. I'm like, okay, cool. And he reaches into his backpack and he pulls out this, like, it looks like it came from Indiana Jones, right? And it's like a model of a temple. And I'm like, yo, that's really cool. How'd you make that? He says, oh, I got a maker gun. And he pulls this gun out of his backpack. He goes, this maker gun can shoot cubes. So I treated it like Legos and I built this thing. I'm like, that's cool, man. I said, thanks for like kind of like not dismissive, but like thanks for showing me your Lego set, bud. You know? Yeah. But then I was like, because my brain, like I said, I'm kind of weird. I was like, can you scale it so we can walk through it? He's like, yeah. Like it was the dumbest question I ever asked him. He goes, watch, and he grabs this model and he goes, whoop, like this, and suddenly we're standing in this temple that he built. with this gun, right? And like I'm like walking around, and he's like, "What kind of music you want?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What kind of music do I want?" Because I'm brand new. I've only had this thing for like a week and a half. And he taps his watch. The menu comes up. He programs this music, and now there's music, and it sounds like it's in the space.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And I'm like, "Yo, if this is like brand new version of what this stuff is, this is going to change the world." So I think about like. Virtual, like I think about documentaries in a virtual space. As long as you have
thinking that, like, it would be so cool to do a documentary. Like, imagine doing a documentary on Todd McFarlane where instead of just watching a sit-down interview with him, it felt like he was talking directly to you and telling you his life story while you're walking through his office or walking on stage with him. That'd be pretty cool.
They have cameras. They have cameras for that too.
Have you
they got VR's crazy though. Like, you can like wear stuff now. They have like special treadmills. I forget what they're called.
Then they got haptic vests. It's just like Ready Player One. I mean, obviously, you know the
except
stuff,
the lovemaking suits.
Yeah, the lovemaking. There's none of that. But like, I'll tell you, I've ridden on that virtual coaster, and you definitely feel that sort of. I did not take DMT Mason, not yet. You definitely feel that sort of change, and there's an app I played. It was a free app called Echo Arena, where it's sort of like Tron, where you have these discs, but you're in a sort of low gravity situation, and the way you move yourself is a lot like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You have to like push off objects, and you kind of sail, and you push away your opponent away, and you throw this frisbee into this thing. Well, when you start playing it and then you take the headset off, it feels weird that gravity is here. Like it's very immersive.
Hey, can like the 5 of us come back? Can we all like buy these things and we do a virtual show? And we get 5 of us.
You can.
We'll just be hanging out the space bar.
Billy, I did a virtual live stream last week.
Shut up! I'm sorry.
There's a thing. It's an app called Immersed. And Immersed, what it does, it's so weird. You put on your virtual headset, it takes your computer monitor and throws it into the VR space. What? So I'm on this space station. I bring my Mac's laptop in here, and I was like, I clicked on something, and it said virtual webcam. Right? Yeah, Beat Saber's dope. My kid, I've played it. My kids love it. I clicked on virtual camera, and I'm like, why is there a virtual camera? Why is there a virtual webcam in a virtual place? So I was like, fuck it. I typed up StreamYard. You know how you can pick what camera you use?
Yeah.
I wanted to see if this virtual camera would show up, and it did. Right?
That's like the P-Hub stuff right there, man.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new level.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is weird. So, and you can control the camera. So I'm moving the camera around this virtual space. And what StreamYard sees is the virtual me in this virtual space. So I'm Dan Fraga in my skeleton shirt with my cool guy glasses on, sitting in a space station. Right? It's on my channel right now, man. I'll let me see if I can put
it. The link.
It's really
Jay in or somebody.
I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab it for you right now because it's unlisted.
So I don't
share the screen, man, and play.
I don't know if you guys have seen all this stuff though, but I mean, like the HTC Vive is the other. There's the Oculus Rift, and then the Oculus Quest, which you have, which is basically the home version deal. But the GoPros, they have the GoPros 360, like the GoPro 360 4K, and one of the biggest deals online is you have these people that do parkour, and they have the camera attached to them so you can see all the area in front of them, and then they run and they do all their parkour stuff, and you're as them in this, and you can turn your head side to side and see what they're doing, where they're running and jumping over stuff and doing all this, and that's essentially the same thing that you could do with with what you're talking about.
Well, right now, David's like, that's great, but what the hell does that have to do with me?
No. I think that's amazing. I want to get
same thing.
I would like to get these a 3D camera. You know, obviously,
we see
of
one.
course,
You can
we always get to that place,
things, right?
We always get to that place where we always talk about smut, right? Like porn. No, because there's VR porn too, right? And it's like 180, it's 360 or whatever, but it's shot with an actual camera. So if you could literally have a virtual Comic-Con, if you had if I set up a 3D camera in here, and then people could come to that, they could actually be in my office while I'm working, like with a full 360, being able to turn around and all that.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Can they help you do like backgrounds or something?
That would be great, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is what it looked like. It's not super impressive, but this is it.
All right. Oh, this is really weird. Really, really weird, guys. You can't even see my mouth move. But I am trying. These are some tests for the future.
This is a live stream on YouTube.
One of these days, I want to figure out if I can create a custom bunny icon, but this is a virtual webcam. I'm getting it all up in there. See how you doing? And get it all the way back there. Push it all the way back.
Yeah, I was seeing the limitations of the camera.
Down and below the keyboard. Look at that. Isn't that a trip? What's up, Keaton? What up, Canuck?
So I'm able to see my chat. I'm able to see my
Canuck's
chat.
actually in the chat right now.
Yeah, Canuck, we love
space.
Canuck.
I mean, check this.
But you're able to in virtual space, what you don't see, you see what that virtual webcam sees. What I'm seeing is a 15-foot version of my computer screen. It's literally like as big as a movie screen. So I'm reading my chat. I'm seeing my StreamYard screen like you guys are right now. I'm seeing it, but it's like as big as a movie screen. I've got this floating guy that looks like he came out of like Tron, like Cursor, you know. They just floating there. And I'm able to control it. And I got this hovering keyboard in front of me that I'm able to do chats and stuff on. So the longest fucking way to answer this is heck yeah. If we were all running immersed with VR, we could be in completely weird spaces streaming on this. John Malin is too hot for it. But yeah, no, it's a trip. And like I said, it's baby technology right now. Like, you know, this stuff didn't really hit till 2016 in a prosumer sort of way.
Yeah.
But dude, we were talking about this earlier. There's something called Oculus Medium, and there's other sculpting programs too. But my whole problem every time I've integrated myself into any sort of 3D stuff, and Billy, you remember the Gear Station, you're still working with a 2D screen, and every time you want to turn, you got to kind of move your camera to turn the thing. In this VR space, when you're crafting something, like let's say I was to do Gorilla from Black Flag, I can sculpt it life size, squish it down, turn it, walk around it, move the light, change the material just by tapping it, right? And then eventually build his body, build the arm parts, all this stuff as if it existed, and then send those pieces to the 3D printer. And then those 3D prints, after they're cleaned up, can be sent out for tooling to become a toy. And you just eliminated probably tens of thousands of dollars in cost by doing it all in VR.
Can I tell a funny story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
This is totally not on the topic of VR, but that you said Black Flag, it just made me think of this, and maybe it's back on the normal topic. But the first time I met Todd, like you guys were talking about the first time you guys met Todd on the last show. The first time I met Todd, this may seem kind of crazy, but it was at Comic-Con, like just before I was about to film him. Wow. So I had no conversations with him previously. I tried to get like, some meeting with him.
Warm up call.
None of that. So me and another guy from Tongle went into a panel he was doing, and we sat through the whole panel. And then as it was over, we basically like went up to him and his people and we're like, hey, we're making the documentary. I'm like, hi, I'm directing this documentary. And we walked to his signing where I had cameras set up to start filming him signing autographs and stuff. I was like, I want to at least meet him before we put a camera in his face.
Yeah.
And so that was good that we were able to do that. And then the funny story is that all went well. And after this was during Comic-Con of last year, and he was still working on 300 while he was at Comic-Con. So he used that as an opportunity, which probably happens all the time, to meet with some of the other artists that were doing different pages and covers. So he met with J. Scott Campbell and Greg Capullo, Philip Tan, and he allowed us to come up there and shoot some of that. And like, that was awesome. But I also got to that was the first time I really got to talk with Todd. And I immediately name dropped Dan Fraga.
Oh, get out of here.
Which is a funny story because I was trying to, I had, during my research, I had seen a video of you where you talk about a time where you were making Black Flag and he inked the cover.
Yes.
And he completely just messed with you.
They gave me a fake.
I think Terry
inked it. Yeah.
Inked it, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big fake out.
He sent you the Terry inked one, and you were like, you could tell the story better than me, but it was completely and they made it seem like, how dare you question this or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude.
How do you look a gift horse in the mouth?
Yeah,
did you a favor?
Such a Todd McFarlane thing, but I brought that up, and of course, he immediately knew that story and told everybody in the room, and everybody was cracking up. And I looked like, I knew I had a little cred because I had an inside story.
Wingman
so
style.
It was a good icebreaker for me and Todd.
That's great.
Met him. So thank you for telling that story on a YouTube video somewhere. It was a good introduction to me and Todd.
Yeah, that was a good time.
We've got a few more questions for you, Dave, but we do want to pop in a good friend of the show, another man who knows the Todd father. Worked with him in the past. Mr. Paul Jenkins is going to join us. He was in the chat before we bring him on to hang out with us, have a beer.
It's funny because all three of you guys on the bottom,
Georgia boys,
you guys are all probably within a half hour, 40 minutes to an hour.
Right, yeah.
Georgia boys, right here.
Wow.
You got a power trifecta right there.
As you can tell from my accent, I was born and raised in Georgia.
Yes.
That's not Kentucky. That's not Kentucky.
Yeah. Alabama.
Excellent.
So, David, man, let me ask you a question. You were filming with Todd for so long. I mean, were there ever times where he was like, hey, after film, hey, guys, let's go out to dinner. Let's do this. Let's do anything. Or was it just record, film, back to work?
Well, obviously, there just wasn't a ton of time because he was doing 300. There'd be times where we'd finish filming and then he would just stay till the late hours of the morning when everybody left. But we did, when we went to go film at the mountaintop, Chinzy had been working behind the scenes to get us permit to go film up there, and we had a park ranger with us and all this stuff. And it was just I had to be and for Todd's part, he could see why that was going to be cool to do, and he was all about it. So when we went up there, he had no problem hiking up there with us, and we were all sweating so much, and he was just I'm like a cockroach, I'm used to this, and which is true. And then after it was over, because we basically went till the sun went down, and I remember him saying at some point off the cuff, when this is over, I'm taking you guys out for slushies. And I laughed. I thought he was joking. And then when we went back down to the cars, he was like, okay, we're gonna follow us, we're going down to the to go to the gas station and get some slushies. So we all went he bought us, my whole crew, slushies, like ices that you get at the
Yeah.
And then when we were in there, they have this beer cave. I don't know if you know, in some gas stations they have a beer cave that's a chilled, basically big
craft beer cave,
just a big locker of colder, like a freezer, like a walk-in freezer. And he was like, oh, they have a beer cave, let's go. And we're all like, I thought he doesn't drink. I don't know what's going on. We went in there and he's like, no, this is where you go after you've been out in the sun. Like, it's the coldest place you can find. And we were like, we just literally chilled in there for like a good 5-10 minutes. It was just amazing. I have a picture of him in there. It was just, it was great. So that was
Pragmatic.
That was one of the coolest times where we did something a little, fun outside of the work.
Now, David, you're there for 10 days. What's a day usually like? And then what do you guys do at night when you leave? Do you stay there only 8 hours? Does he kick you out? And then do you guys all hang out, the crew? And like, how many of you were there? Like, what was the experience like?
Yeah, it was actually, a cool experience. I was fortunate enough that the crew that I had with me were people that I had worked with before and are basically friends of mine. So we got Airbnb, like a nice house.
Nice.
And so we had a pool. So when we were finished, we would go, and Chenzi brought a projector. So we watched, some movies and stuff. We even watched the Spawn movie one night just to get in the spirit. And he could there was a wall, like we would be in the pool and we'd watch a movie. It was pretty cool. Like, you can't do that here. But the work days where, we would get up and get there. It wasn't always the same time. We kind of coordinated with Shannon, who works with McFarlane, as to what would be a good time. Like, because Todd didn't come in at the same time every day. Sometimes you'd stay late and come in late. Sometimes you would leave early and come in early. So, or sometimes they would have like a call or some other thing that wouldn't be worth us filming. So we'd try to figure out something different that we could film. Or there was times where in the mornings, it would be either in the morning or after we were done, me and my cinematographer would go through the footage from the day before and see what do we have, what do we still need to get. And that was sort of how the day went. Like, we would get there in the morning and just kind of schedule what we would need to do, what interviews we needed to get, and based on what we had gotten the day before. Because there was definitely days where the whole day was just filming comic book stuff. Or thank God from Todd, like he saves everything he's ever had. So he has all of his rejection letters. He has all of his like love letters between him and Wanda. He has all of his early drawings. He has all of his his own personal collection of comic books, tons of photos. So we did spend like a whole day, maybe even more than that, just filming that stuff. He like completely opened it all up to us, which was great. And then we're just trying to schedule like what made sense what day based on where they were at with 300. But that's kind of how the days would go. Like, just get into the office, and there were just specific shots that we wanted to get that we had to kind of cross off, like him walking in or him leaving, or different aspects of the production of making a comic book that we wanted to make sure, okay, we got that. So we did have sort of game plan, and then there's definitely a lot of like just figuring it out as you go, and depending on what was happening. There's a part in the documentary where they're having a phone call with the printer, and they're like missing the deadline, and it's kind of a tense moment. That phone call was already going on when we arrived to film that day, because they had gotten an early morning phone call saying like, where are these covers? And like, so they had a rush meeting, and we got there, it was real tense. People looked like they just thrown their clothes on and rushed to the office. And Chenzi and I were like, can we film this? Like, it was kind of like, there was no one at that point to be like, what can we do? Todd came out during that call and was like, you guys should film this. Like, you guys should get everything, the good and the bad. So we were like, okay, good on you, Todd, for like, not trying to shield the bad parts, And so we got in there and got that, and that ended up being a pretty cool moment in the film.
I wish you had been there in the 90s, and when I worked with him.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. I texted earlier on, I put in the stream that I was doing a press check for Tundra Publishing. This was years ago when he first came out with Spawn #1. And I was standing in Quebecor, and they did the printing for Spawn #1, and I saw literally the first one of them come off the line, like the very first issue. And I have a horrible affliction that I really don't give a rat's ass about any of that stuff, so I just can't let it go. But I should have grabbed a bunch of them and gone, "This is the one."
Whoops.
We had like the funniest time because we worked on mid to late 90s, and he wanted what do you call it, like a annual. He'd never done a Spawn annual, so he had me do it with Ashley Wood.
Oh yeah.
And it was completely different. It's like trying to get Bill Sienkiewicz to draw Spawn, you know. It was really weird. And so we did it, and it did really well. And then he wanted me to write this book called Spawn the Undead. So I worked there, you know, for writing like Spawn the Undead for a while. And it was really weird because it was me and Brian Bendis, who wrote Sam and Twitch, and Steve Niles. And
what a rogues gallery.
Yeah.
Rogues Gallery, no shit. We came in on this Rogues Gallery, and we were just like working away, and he just basically let me write Hellblazer and Spawn. You know,
Awesome.
It was like write single issue stories with Spawn, and the fans really dug it. But I remember when he got the baseballs. The baseballs, you know, and I'm just too much of a football fan to care. I was like, great, whatever. I juggle with him a little bit, you know, but these things were worth like so much money. He spent like millions on them, like 1.6 million or something.
I think he spent 3 million on them, right?
I was on the last one. 3 million on the last one.
I had a talk with Wanda about this, like a few years back, his wife Wanda. And I said, come on. I said, he's I'm an idiot for even thinking this. I'm like, I said, he's amazing, but he did spend, you know, $5 million on some fucking balls, you know? And
you put it that way.
But she said he didn't spend $5 million on balls. He bought the cheapest PR campaign on a national budget. Yep. Right? Like he was on every single TV show, and not every time it wasn't, oh yeah, the Sammy Sosa baseball, you know, Mark McGwire baseball. He'd go and Spawn and Spawn and Spawn and Spawn and Spawn and Spawn, 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 Spawn. He bought the cheapest PR in the form of baseballs. He was out there telling the world about Spawn while they're talking about his crazy baseballs, and he got Spawn into the hearts and minds of people all over the world on the cheap.
I couldn't agree more, because I remember when he brought the baseballs out, he brought them out in a plastic bag and a paper bag, like like a brown bag where you bring like beer out of the gas station, and he brought them out in a paper bag and gave them to us, and we were like, great. And he's like, do you want to take a photo with him? And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that most people, everybody's like, not really.
Let me take a picture with some balls.
Yeah, right. So
I wonder. I mean, I know it was the cheapest PR campaign, but if it's 3 million or how many, but was it worth it? I wonder if it translated into comic sales or toys.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure
it did. People saw it. Go out and buy a Spawn comic.
We're still talking about it now, and those balls still have a value to them.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, he could sell them and make part of the money back.
They're part of the story too, because a lot of the collector thing, I forget what it's called, but for lack of a better phrase, it's the lineage of it. Like you can have like a rock, and that rock was owned by Elvis Presley, imagine, right? I'm making this up, but that's a valueless rock, but it was owned by Elvis Presley, and it was his lucky charm. And then Nicolas Cage buys it, and it gets stolen, and then it gets found, and it turned out it was in this oil baron's, you know, room, and he coveted it. Yeah. Every single time that changed hands, the value went up on this fucking rock.
Yeah, so the pedigree is great.
Yeah, the pedigree. There you go.
It becomes its own story.
Not only are those the Sosa and McGuire balls, but they were from the McFarlane collection.
Yes, and as far as I remember from my research, like having those balls, I thought helped to get the toy deal with Major League Baseball. So I think that
probably did.
I think that probably.
Can you imagine how much money they paid for that?
Yeah, it must have been way more than that.
I mean, you look at starting lineup, and back then when starting lineup was first coming out, I was like, man, these things are awesome. They look almost just like them. And then of course, like Todd McFarlane comes in, it's like hold my beer, you know.
Yeah. So my Jeter toy. Where's my Jeter figure? I think he's in there. I got a Jeter.
There's something really funny about Todd as well. So he's pretty much in Spawn. Like I wrote the Spawn main series, and I didn't write it for very long because he can't let it go. Like he lives inside it, and so I only did a few issues with John Myers and moved on. But he's the one who told me years ago. So we did this annual, and they had never done one before. And I will tell you that the way Ashley Wood drew it, like I wrote it and I didn't understand it. Right? I read this damn book. Like, what did we just do? Right? And then we did that, and it sold really well. And Todd is. Then I did Spawn the Undead, and it was just Todd left me alone. Todd let me write whatever I wanted to, which is not usually what he would do with Spawn. And he's the one who said to me, and I've never forgotten it, and I've used it loads of times. He was like, just go do that wizardy shit. He didn't care. He just called it that wizardy shit, which was write whatever you want. Basically, go do that wizardy shit with Spawn. So he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's just, in terms of the main Spawn book, he won't let you do anything with it. He lives and breathes it. So even
he is Spawn. Spawn is him.
Yeah. And the story's not over. He's going to keep pushing it and pushing it. He's got too much more to tell. He said, now after everything premiered and stuff, have you heard from him at all, David? Like, hey, great job or anything?
I have heard that he liked the documentary. Mm-hmm. I've been in communication with Shannon that works with him. Mm-hmm. I haven't been in communication with Todd specifically, but we're making plans to try to get back out there and see them again at some point. Maybe do something with the documentary, have a little screening or something out there. So that would be cool if we can all get back together and have a little reunion. But yeah, no, I've definitely been in contact with his people, not him specifically though.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I have to say again, huge fan of it. I really
enjoyed
it.
It was the intimacy of it is unbelievable. What you did and how you and having Wanda in it as well. And I've never seen him. I've hung out. I've had the privilege of hanging out with him a bunch of times, and but just that vulnerability too, because he's like you said, like hell I won't. And he doesn't take shit from anyone, but he's never negative. He's always positive. He's always he's like a almost like a force for good himself. You don't see him bitching about other people, about other creators. You don't see him whining about things, cry bullying or any of that stuff. He's just his own man. And it was great to see that too. But that more, you really capture that wonderful family side of him too.
Yeah. I just love when he's like, I've built corporations out of anger. Might not have been the right thing to do. I haven't made the best decisions, but I stuck with them.
I definitely was hyped after it. I got amped, and then I was hyped, and then I took a nap.
Yeah, I was though too. Like it hypes you up, man.
Yeah,
you get, hyped up. Like, all right, you know what? I got to rework my schedule.
I'm gonna run this place. Let's go.
Get this character going. We gotta get going. I'm gonna be just like him. I'm gonna be just like him, Mom. And she's like, get out of my house.
Meet Fraga and Paul. We're doing our books. Do your damn books, man.
Yeah, it's true.
Man, if I can inspire the next, Todd McFarlane, that's what it's all about.
Oh, you did. You really did. You did an amazing job.
So, I remember when we were doing the interview when Todd said, if you ask me what would I be doing when I'm 80, 90, I'm just going to be a comic book guy, just making comic books. When he said that, I was like, that's the end. That's the end. Because that's just that's the beginning to the end. Just a kid making comic books. That's what it'll be at the end. I was like, okay, that's my ending. But that's inspiring, because you just find that thing you love and then just do it, and so the comments I see from other creators, I just, for me, it's inspiring as just any type of artist, not even just comic books.
Yeah.
To find what you love and do it, and then try to find a way to do it the way that you want to. And so I'm glad to hear you guys feel that way, because I definitely wanted that to come through.
It did.
Tremendous.
I hope you get to do some more. I hope you get in front of get some other comic book creators, get some documentaries going, whether it be with SYFY or stuff on your own. I mean, there's some people that just had crazy, just hit the lottery with the most amazing things you can think of. And their
then I got
stories
fishing and
are
bow hunting
unbelievable,
with me
you
and
know?
stuff like
The
that.
Billy Tucci story.
Well, I would love to. I mean, there's
Yeah,
so
and
many more
nobody would
stories.
watch.
There's just so many.
All the Blevins would watch. It's in my friends.
Dude, I'd buy 1,000 copies if they pick it up.
Damn, look at that, Blevins. 1,000 copies.
I want to.
So what's next, Dave? What are you doing, David? What's next?
Well, like I said, we're having conversations about what it might look like if we did some more documentaries like this.
Nice.
And then I've got my own projects I'm working on, some stuff I write as well. So stuff I can't really, it sounds like I'm being mysterious, but can't really talk about any of that yet, but working on that. And I'm trying to get my own like foothold as a director and try to get myself some, representation and things like that.
Some features, some TV.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. My mentor is a TV director, veteran TV director. And like, I've always looked up to him, and his career is something that I would want to aspire to. So that's the goal, man.
Are the talks other mediums, or are you still looking at staying with the comic book?
Well, the talks I'm having right now are about
broader,
about that and other. I've been talking to some people who've sold some big documentaries to Netflix and stuff like that.
Nice.
And just about, getting some pitches to them that they could get into the hands of some Netflix folks. And just those are the kind of conversations. But in terms of my own work, that'll come.
Yeah. Well, you were saying with COVID that it's tough. Has that really, with the pandemic, has that really put a shutdown on studios and television series, accepting pitches or actively looking for pitches?
It just depends, I think, because I do see that there's a lot more time for people to be having conversations about future projects and stuff like that. But like I said before, it's hard to know when some of those things will be possible to even do. So I think that's probably part of the conundrum of it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm hopeful that I can get more opportunities from this one, because I would definitely love to. There's a lot of other creators that I think have great stories too. And of course, there's definitely, the issues of different IPs and different licensing, like where can that legally go, non-competing and stuff like that. I'm sure those questions are certain things that people have, but I think there are things that can be worked out depending on who we were able to tell the story of.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Oster, the feature film, written, produced, and directed.
Me too, my friend. Me too. I haven't built up these connections for nothing.
There you go.
David, you gotta get in touch with me, man, because that's what I do in my company. So, we are working on a couple of projects right now, building them out. I'm directing in the beginning of this year, and man, we're all in Georgia, right? Look at the Georgia boys on the bottom.
Yeah,
seriously, like
a bunch of sweet peaches down there. I'll tell you.
Get in touch, man.
I will. I'd love to.
So a big part of my company, which is like META, like META, and it's media, education, technology, and advancement. It's kind of an acronym, but the advancement and the education side of it is all like making sure that we level up our like creative community and stuff like that. So we share assets, and we kind of introduce people to each other and like help each other out, man, because
I love
Billy and I were talking about this on the Kickstarter / Indiegogo stuff is, I just did one or I'm doing one right now, and Billy helped me out and Brian helped me out, and a lot of people, it's like helping each other out.
Yeah.
Means a lot, man, and to some extent you got to rely on the kindness of strangers anyway, just meet people and know each other,
Yeah. And that's why I love, coming on and talking with creative people like you guys.
Well, dude, anytime you like, we do Hollywood shows. We do our adventure, our misadventures in Hollywood shows.
Okay.
We do movie talking about different genres of film and all. And if we'd love for always you guys, all three of you guys.
Yeah, while the COVID thing's going on, Billy's got you want to talk about the great idea for the next dinner and a movie, we'll call it?
Yeah, we're going to do the next one is going to be this August 28th. It is the 85th anniversary. No, the 85th anniversary of Lon Chaney Sr.'s funeral, and we're going to start doing 100 years of horror. We're going to start talking film cinema about horror films, and we're going to go through the decades.
So you said August 28th.
It's going to be the 1910s and 1920s.
You said August 28th.
August 28th. Yep, it's a Friday night. We're all going to be drinking.
It's a special day.
Yes.
It's a very special day.
What that day, buddy?
Your wedding anniversary?
Well, there's that. That's great. But yeah, it's my 10th anniversary. But what's even cooler about it in the grand scheme, especially given the panel and the chat, is Jack Kirby's birthday.
Shut up.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Shut your front door.
103rd birthday right there. August 28th, 1917.
Cancel that show. We got to make that show Thursday night now on the 27th to do a Kirby show.
We should do a Kirby show.
Yeah, it's his birthday. It would be his 103rd birthday.
We can do the Kirby show on the 22nd, on the 27th because of the eve of it. Because they're against the wheels of motion for the other show.
There you go.
Okay.
Dan, would you mind coming on and talk a little Jack Kirby for?
That'd be awesome. Just not the 28th. That's my 10th anniversary, so just not the 28th. But the 27th, hell yeah, dude! I love that.
And Paul, if you guys are into horror, we're gonna start doing them by the decades. We're gonna start doing sci-fi films by the decades.
I'm your sci-fi guy.
What?
Yeah, I'm down for sci-fi. I'm
definitely
I can't watch anything horror though.
Well, you got to bring your own dinner, though, because it's like we're eating and talking. So for the horror one, everyone's going to get their own goulash, huh?
Nice. Very well done.
David, you're going to have goulash.
That sounds great.
Or some haunt dogs.
No, but the thing
is... haunt dogs. Oh,
my God, it's getting worse. Oh, man, now this is...
I worked on Monster High, so I heard them all.
Oh, my God.
Well, yeah, me and David, you got to give us your contact info, man. We'll get together and we'll, me and Dan are getting together this week. I'll send you the Facebook, mate.
Okay.
But it's good to know each other, right? It's good to
absolutely
know who's doing what and know that you got someone in your back pocket that might introduce you to someone else. It's the biggest small town, like Hollywood's the biggest small town in the world, right? And Atlanta's sort of building up that way. So I love it. I love the fact that we are front and center trying to help build all of those relationships and build it out. It's a weird time for production, but not for me because I do game development as well and stuff like that in animation. I don't care, right? It's shut down the films or do something else instead.
It's a good time to make these connections and also to start thinking outside the box of what can be made. There's these the director on Loki. I think it's her boyfriend. I want to say they just did this movie Host. That's like a Zoom haunted a Zoom horror movie, and so that was smart. That's getting a lot of
one missed call with Zoom.
Yeah, something I don't know. I think they go on they do a seance over Zoom, and it becomes real or something.
I just saw one called the Agoraphobics detective agency, and it was a bunch of agoraphobics that couldn't go out of their house, and so that's why it was all on Zoom.
Find a good story over there. I mean, I that's obviously not the type of movie that you grow up wanting to make a Zoom movie, but I do commend them for being creative and taking advantage of the situation. Because that'll probably lead to more traditional filmmaking for those people. I'm sure that's
problem solving is people's problem solving abilities are crucial in evaluating them. You can look at the work, but when someone can defeat, they call it the old money hose. When you got a big budget, you just wash problems away with the money hose. But when you don't have a money hose, the people that come up with creative solutions are the ones that are really the ones to watch.
Yeah, so for a couple of years, I taught a curriculum that was accredited by the state of Georgia that I created called Creative Adaptability at Kennesaw State.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just tell me all the limitations, tell me all the things I can't do.
Yeah.
Great, now I know what I can do, and I can make stuff like that. And so
I love it.
Because what it does, it teaches creative confidence to younger people. It lets them, it tells them, listen, take all the parameters of things that you don't know how to do. Great. Okay. Now that you can't do those, now you can do everything else. And it really helps build confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, gentlemen. Well, appreciate you coming on. David, thank you so much for joining us again. We love your documentary. Look forward to seeing what you have coming in the future. How can everyone keep up with what you have? Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at D_Oster, OSTER. And you can find me on osterproductions.com.
Nice.
Fantastic.
David, thank you for coming on. I mean, what a great piece of art you did. You really did. It's got us all pumped, and we're really honored that you came on with us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honored to be here, guys. Thank you so much. It's been nice chatting with you guys. Love nerding out with creative people like yourselves.
Heck yeah. Well, we'll have you on again if you don't mind coming on, man.
Oh, absolutely. This was fun. I'd love to.
All right.
All right. Awesome, guys. All right, everyone. We will see you later. Have a great night. And if you haven't seen the documentary, it is head over to SYFY Wire YouTube channel. It is up now. And it's in HD.
And anyone that has a creative bone in their body or appreciates art or comic or business or failure and success, and it's got everything. Covered all the bases. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a great night.
Emmy Award coming your way.
God, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
It's deserved.
Hashtag the Oster cut.
That's right. Yeah.
2-hour version.
Yeah. What's the odds of that happening?
Probably low, but you never know. You never know.
You never know.
Start the trend, then maybe.
Paul, Dan, thank you for jumping on. As always, it's a pleasure to have you guys on. Nice, and everyone, we will see you next time. Have a lovely night, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you soon.